Is supporting police officers a core constitutional responsibility of the executive branch? Let's talk about that. Because it can get Donald Trump into some very serious trouble. Is one of the president's core constitutional responsibilities to support police officers accused of a crime? The simple answer to that, ladies and gentlemen, is no. Here's why. Because the president's primary duty is to take care of the laws, as you can see from the screen here, to be faithfully executed. And you might be asking yourselves, well, what type of laws and what kind of laws does that involve? Well, here is the simple answer, ladies and gentlemen. This involves ensuring the laws are followed and that everyone, including police officers, is held accountable under the law. The president's role is to, ladies and gentlemen, uphold the rule of law, not to prioritize any specific group or individual above the law. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get a more detailed breakdown. Ladies and gentlemen, Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, if you guys are wondering, requires the president to take care of that laws, take care that the laws be faithfully executed. What type of laws, what does it mean by saying that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this means ensuring that federal laws are implemented and enforced fairly and consistently. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the president's role. The president's role, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, the president is obviously the head of the executive branch. The president is also responsible for enforcing federal laws, which includes holding all individuals accountable, including police officers. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into upholding the rule of law. Ladies and gentlemen, the president's duty to uphold the rule of law means that everyone, regardless of their position or profession, is subject to the rule of law. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into accountability. The Constitution does not grant the president any special powers or immunity that would allow them to shield individuals from prosecution. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the impeachment of the president. Ladies and gentlemen, if a president were to violate the law or abuse their power, they could be impeached and removed from office. Now, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, right now, even though I know some of you, if not majority of you, thankfully agree that he should be impeached right now. However, there is a small but also big problem with that. Republicans control half the House and the Senate. And we would need 2/3 majority in order to impeach him. However, it is kind of possible to impeach him right now because he is simply pissing some Republicans, as well as American citizens, off with what he is currently doing and abusing his powers and non-core responsibilities. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the separation of powers. Ladies and gentlemen, the president's role is enforcing the law. Enforcing the law is separate from the role of Congress in making the laws and the role of the judiciary in interpreting and applying them. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the president's core responsibility is to ensure that the laws are followed by everyone, including law enforcement, and to uphold the rule of law. This does not include a constitutional obligation to support any specific group or individuals accused who are accused of a crime. Ladies and gentlemen, this video was made in response to the executive order that Donald Trump unconstitutionally, illegally signed in regards to trying to protect and support police officers accused of wrongdoing that he just recently, like I said, signed. That is going to do it for today's video, ladies and gentlemen. If you did enjoy today's video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Firstly. Secondly, if you want to stay up to date on all the things legal breaking reporting wise on the side of politics, please hit the bell icon that is right next to the subscribe button down below on the right hand side and hit the all notifications option. Thirdly, please follow me on my social medias that will be linked down below if you want to stay up to date on all the things legal breaking reporting wise on the side of politics. I'm on Instagram, Snapchat, Threads, as well as TikTok. Fourthly, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to if you want to follow me, subscribe, please do so and help me reach 160 plus subscribers. It'll help me out a lot, as well as help out a whole bunch of independent media sources and grow independent media sources. Fifthly, ladies and gentlemen, please stay positive, stay safe, and know that justice will prevail eventually on the correct side of the law, despite Donald Trump and his illegal regime's unconstitutional, illegal executive orders and actions and behaviors. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, I will have you guys note, and I will add to that, if the courts wanted to uphold and sue Donald Trump and put a preliminary injunction and put a stop to this executive order, they can do so because, as I said, it is not a core responsibility of the President of the United States to support police officers that are accused of wrongdoing.